All right, guys, welcome back to the Pocket Mads channel. It's Matty here, and even though it is Wednesday today, and normally we do our off-meta showcase, today we're going to be talking about the best decks for ranked battles for this new B4 ranked season, because ranked just came out. And to be fair, I had a lot of opinions, and there's a lot of interesting things that I wanted to talk about, so that's why today's video on Wednesday is going to be the best decks for ranked. I know the metagame has been changing really rapidly, but I wanted to give you guys a good head start. Now, there were some ranked changes, right? So now for the players that are playing through Ultra Ball tier, you no longer lose points. I don't know if I've really given much time to talk about this update to Pokemon Pocket, but I do think it's actually a very good thing. I've said it for a very long time. The entire point of ranked is to not get to Master Ball and claim the rewards, right, for reaching that rank and then stopping play. The whole point of ranked is to play in Master Ball against players and try to climb as high as possible. Now, I know some people aren't going to be that interested in doing that. That's totally fine, but to me, in my opinion, that is what the ranked experience is, right? Yes, you should get the rewards for participating. It took me literally like 40 minutes to get to Master Ball tier today. I went on like a 10-game win streak and then lost a couple and then won a couple more. And then we were in Master Ball, right? So again, I know some people feel differently about it, and they don't maybe enjoy playing Master Ball ranked over and over again. But again, that to me is like the whole point of ranked. So that's an update that just released. And again, go ahead, play ranked, enjoy it, get your rewards, and continue to play throughout the rest of this next 2 weeks as you see fit. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's dive right into these deck lists, guys. We got some really interesting things to talk about. Before we do, though, definitely go register for PMPT number 42. PMPT is the largest and longest running weekly Pokemon Pocket tournament series, all thanks to you guys and, of course, the judges, the moderators, the casters, everybody that makes this happen. Now, of course, this season, it only has like 2 more weeks left until, of course, ranked ends, and then the new set comes out, which is crazy. The turnaround for Pokemon Pocket is really quick. However, this is a tournament with cash prize rewards, and it really does help us and helps the community when we have, you know, all of the competitive players coming out and competing. So I know ranked is out right now, but if you have some time this weekend, definitely tune in or compete to either the live stream or the tournament. So link to register down in the description below. That's a long enough intro. You guys always make fun of me because my intros are so long, but I don't edit or do anything like that on the channel. I just like to talk, and there's going to be timestamps, so you just use the timestamps if you want to. I'm sure most of you guys do it anyway. We're going to go to pocketmads.com. I'm going to pull up some deck lists that I really like that are examples from online competitions. What's great about pocketmads.com is that when we pull up the deck list, it actually gives credit to the player and shows their record, which is nice. So, for instance, the first deck we're going to be talking about today is from Big Slowpoke Fan, who had 8-1-1 at a recent online tournament, and that's right, this is past friends Chandelure. And we also have the code, which I will pull up after I talk about this deck for way longer than I should. But yes, I wanted to include a Psychic type deck in today's video, definitely, because I think this season is going to be the biggest story in my mind is really Mega Lucario. Mega Lucario is probably going to be the most popular deck, if not one of the most popular decks in tournament play this season, but also in ranked battles. It's incredibly strong. It can one-hit a lot of Pokemon in the game, and this to me is like a perfect counterplay example, of a deck that does extremely well into Mega Lucario, but also can hold its own into other decks of the metagame. So that's one of the big things that we're going to be talking about today. Mega Lucario, it's right up there. Tomorrow we're going to do our updated tier list, so it's going to be, kind of an extension of today's video, where I'm going to be ranking all of the decks. But fundamentally speaking, you have Lucario. You also have the Hoopa decks, which are dark type decks, really, really strong. And then you have some of the grass type decks. And there's been some progressions for really all of those lists. This is a deck that I think really can fit into the metagame quite well. This is a deck that does actually do well into the greater scope of the metagame. It's a purely single prize archetype, and past friend Chandelure has been a meta viable card in the past, but has been buffed pretty tremendously due to a couple inclusions that came out this season. The first one here is going to be Supernatural Feather Oricorio. This card is broken, insanely strong. 80 HP, it is weak to dark, retreat cost of 1, but for 1 energy does 50 damage, and you get to discard a card from your hand, which seems like a downside because you actually have to discard a card, but that's actually an upside, considering that Chandelure here does more damage based around how many supporter cards are in our discard pile. This is a deck that's playing a lot of supporter cards. The other big inclusion to this archetype is Wynot. This is the new Stompy Jammer Wynot, which is an incredible leadoff option into mostly the entire metagame right now. And I think it fits extremely well into this deck, which likes to slow things down a little bit. It's also Psychic type, so you will hit for valuable chip damage on those Fighting type Pokemon that you're going to see in Mega Lucario, but it's also going to slow down everything in the entire metagame and allow you to kind of get back on the energy curve. The energy curve is something we do talk about quite a bit. It's one of the more important aspects of Pokemon Pocket. Effectively speaking, energy is the primary resource in Pokemon Pocket. However, as most people know, if you go first, you can't attach an energy. And for a lot of different archetypes, that's actually a pretty big downside. Going first and being behind on energy, Wynot effectively slows your opponent down for a couple of turns and allows you to kind of get back onto that energy curve properly. Wynot is an incredible baby Pokemon and one that I think fits extremely well into this otherwise entirely Psychic type archetype. So the combination of Oricorio and Wynot being really great leadoff options, Chandelure on the back end, which is easily, and I mean easily, able to one-hit KO some of the best Pokemon in the entire game, means that this is one of the strongest, at the moment, could be the #1 strongest single prize archetype in the entire game. I have been playing this for ranked, and I find it incredibly strong. Not only into Mega Lucario, it feels like an auto win into Mega Lucario, but even into a lot of the other archetypes, things like Vespiquen, even some other Pokemon like Hoopa, like Darkrai, like Absol, like Chandelure can one-hit KO really easily. You know, Past Friends does 60 damage and then 20 more for each supporter card in your discard pile, but you're almost always able to get this thing up and running by turn 3, and again, we can slow our opponent down or deal a bunch of damage until that happens. But keep in mind, you know, 3 turns into it, you're able to get 3 supporter cards in the discard pile. That's 60 plus 60, that's 120. However, if you are utilizing Oricorio, that could, that could easily be 4, 5, even 6 supporter cards in the discard pile by then, and that's going to allow you to just one-hit KO a lot of different Pokemon, including Mega Pokemon, on your 3rd turn. And keep in mind, like, you know, you can just let, you know, Wynot go down and then an Oricorio go down and then go into Chandelure, right? So it's a single prize archetype, so at the very least, like, your opponent, or you rather, are going to be able to get into turn 3, 4, or 5 before, you know, you have to bring in Chandelure, which is a really big deal. Double Copycat, double Research, the things you would expect in a deck like this. 1 Sabrina, 1 Cyrus, which is really nice. And then 1 Lycia, because this is a Lyciable deck, Litwick has 50 HP, and of course, Wynot has 30. So yes, Lycia is an incredible card to play in here. Also feeds into the Past Friends, attack condition. And then we have a Mars in here, which again fits extremely well because of the purely single prize archetype nature here. 1 Hiking Trail, because why not? Extra card draw. We're going to be discarding cards from our hand. Incredible synergy, in fact, with Hiking Trail. And then double Pokeball, double Rare Candy, because why not, right? So a very strong deck, one that I've been pleasantly surprised with. I've been hitting a ton of Mega Lucario on the ranked ladder. This is a deck that feels extremely strong in Mega Lucario, which is why I wanted to lead off today's video talking about it. In fact, my original plan was to have this be the weekly wild card in today's video. However, Chandelure came out and won 2 tournaments in the last couple of days, got first place at a couple of online tournaments. So to me, not necessarily a wild card. It is, in fact, a real meta player. And I chose to include this over other Psychic type decks, which also might be somewhat relevant currently in the metagame. Things like Mega Altaria. I would much rather play this myself, and I would much rather everyone else play this deck over Sleep Altaria. However, it's probably still a decently strong option. Psychic type is on the rise. Now, you might be wondering, into some of those dark type decks like Hoopa, this deck probably doesn't feel very good. Keep in mind, why not will stop the turn 1 Hoopa. Oricorio can live an attack from Hoopa EX anyway, so it's really not even that bad. And again, the HP amounts for those Pokemon in that deck are a bit lower, so Chandelure on turn 3 or turn 4 can come in and just sweep through your opponent. It's also going to live an attack from a Hoopa 100 damage attack. It's also going to live an attack from Darkrai. It's also going to live an attack from Mega Absol. So honestly, that matchup doesn't even feel that bad. I'm going to be honest with you. So an incredible strong deck. I had to talk about it. It's the first deck I wanted to highlight. Here is the code for you guys. This is, again, big Slowpoke fans deck list from an online tournament that he won, but there were multiple first place finishes over the last few days with this deck list. So I wanted to start this video by talking about it. We're almost 10 minutes in, which is crazy. We'll try to move a bit quicker through the rest of the decks in today's video, but here is the code, guys. A deck I would heavily recommend, especially if you're hitting a lot of Lucario on the ladder. Now let's talk about Mega Lucario. This is going to be Chucky's deck. He went 7-1 at a recent tournament here. And it's actually the pop-up series number 4. So here's the thing about Mega Lucario. It's really, really good. When you play this deck on the ranked ladder, depending on which deck you're playing, it's going to feel like a bad matchup. Like most decks, I would say, that are at the top or at the forefront of the metagame really don't love hitting Mega Lucario. And again, it just becomes down to the breakpoint numbers, you know, between Arena of Antiquity, between Fighting Coach Lucario, between Korrina. This is a deck that's probably going to be able to one-hit KO your Pokemon, and unless you're playing some other deck that can, you know, have HP extended beyond, you know, that 190 damage threshold, it's not going to feel great. Now, the reason why I really like this deck this season is because it has been updated. You know, I think Hitmontop feeds in extremely well, and it does kind of give some really much needed chip damage here for Mega Lucario in the late game into some of those matchups with those stage 2 Mega Pokemon with 210 plus HP. Things like Mega Sceptile, things like Mega Blaziken. So, you know, even though you're playing those higher HP Pokemon, Mega Lucario can still reach and get those KOs sometimes with all of those extra damage modification cards and Hitmontop. So it's kind of crazy. And then as we know, Bonsly's a really, really nice card. It's going to stick into the active. It's going to deal some nice chip damage. It's just a Pokemon that you can lead with that is not Riolu, right? Which is a really big deal. Also, Teary attack is pretty strong. What's cool about Bonsly is that the damage, because it is a fighting type Pokemon, is in fact buffed by Arena of Antiquity and of course Korrina and things like Fighting Coach Lucario, right? So you get access to all of those extra damage buffs, specifically to those EX Pokemon, which you're probably going to be leading off with or going up against into like those Hoopa matchups, right? So I really like Mega Lucario. It does have some bad matchups that have popped up so far this season. We're going to talk about another deck that is rising up in play because its matchup into Mega Lucario is quite strong. And again, that Chandelure deck does extremely well into Mega Lucario. But to me, this is quickly becoming like the main meta driver, right? This is the deck that I put in A tier last Tuesday. In Thursdays, in tomorrow's video, I might be putting this in the S tier. In fact, you best believe I'm going to be putting Mega Lucario into the S tier, probably winning more tournaments over the last week than any other deck. It really is significantly strong into so many of the strong decks, kind of single-handedly pushing things like Vespiquen somewhat out of the metagame. However, Vespiquen definitely still a meta-viable option. Nothing else to really say here. We have talked about Mega Lucario a decent amount. We have PCL, Ice Pop, Field Blower. This is one of Lucario. This is what I call this because so many of the cards in the deck are just one of copies, which I actually do think is somewhat correct. He was playing one of the 2 energy, 40 damage Punch Riolu, which I find to be very interesting. I don't know why you would play this really over any of the other Riolus, but I guess 40 damage could come in handy, especially in scenarios where we don't actually find Mega Lucario. We might have enough damage buff here to just maybe KO a Pokemon with 40, and maybe that's the idea around it. I don't really know. It does have 70 HP instead of 60, so that is, I guess, somewhat of an advantage as well. But you're still going to get KO'd by that Oricorio, right? Which is why Oricorio in Chandelure is so strong. But yeah, Mega Lucario, incredibly strong. I had to mention it. You guys know it. In my experience so far this season, it's the most popular deck that I've been running up into, which is why I'm capitalizing on that by playing Chandelure, but there we go. Here is the code. What do you guys think is actually the best deck to be playing for ranked right now? The best single deck. Like if you had to pick one, which deck are you guys playing? Comment down below. I would love to hear it. I would not be surprised if, you know, Lucario ended up winning more tournaments this week, really. And for the remainder of the season, I would not be surprised. And like I said, when, you know, the ranked season wraps up, if Mega Lucario is in fact the most played deck this season. They added a bunch of incredibly strong decks to the game that are all within KO range of Lucario, which is really the big reason why this Pokemon is much more relevant this season. Really, really good. Bonsly's also a nice inclusion, right? To be honest. Okay. All right. Next up is Vespiquen. Okay. This is going to be Kong King Real, who went 8-2. I really like Vespiquen. I still think this is like one of the stronger decks in the game, but keep in mind its matchups into certain things this season have been extremely poor. Lucario is kind of one example of that. Now, the upside to Vespiquen is that if you kind of stop looking at the top of the metagame and you look at kind of everything that you might be hitting that's sort of off meta or outside like the top 3 most popular decks, Vespiquen is incredibly strong. So there's no surprise to me, and it does make a ton of sense why Vespiquen came out this season and was just exceptional. Dark-type decks were super popular at the beginning of the season with the new inclusions and the buffs to the Dark-type. Vespiquen was able to come in and be extremely aggressive and have a strong matchup into all of those decks, things like Hoopa, things like Hydreigon. Vespiquen does extremely well into. It's a Grass-type Pokemon, hyper-consistent, 140 damage, and that enough is like kind of exactly what you're looking for out of a Grass archetype to beat a lot of the Dark-type decks. And to be fair, fair, I think the only reason why Hoopa hasn't been by far the most dominant deck this season is because of Vespiquen. Now, again, if you take a look at all of the other things in the metagame that aren't Lucario, that aren't necessarily Hoopa, like all of the tier 2 and below decks, Vespiquen does really well into like most of them because it is just a strong, consistent deck list, right? So that's the upside here to me, even though Vespiquen is going to struggle into Mega Lucario and it's probably going to struggle into a couple of other things that are relevant this season. Everything else, like, you're going to feel pretty strongly about. Now, it's not something that I feel is like my number one option, in fact, right now, which we will talk about next. But I did still want to include it because I just can't dispute the fact that Vespiquen is still a good option. I almost left it off of today's video entirely, but I took a look at the metagame data, I took a look at the tournament results, and I thought to myself, you know what? Like, there's still going to be a ton of Hoopa on the ranked ladder. If you're not hitting Lucario, like, Hoopa is going to be the next most popular thing. So again, playing a deck list that is strong into Hoopa is going to have a lot of advantages. Again, into things like Suicune, into things like the lightning type decks Vespiquen does quite well into. So a really, really strong deck. Nothing else to really say about it here. This deck list is playing one of the non-EX Vespiquen, which in fact does hit for 70 damage, and that will KO an Oricorio, which is definitely somewhat relevant. They're playing one Call for Family Combi, as well as one of the Reckless Charge Combi. Now, I do think both of these have their merit, of course. You know, Call for Family does kind of lean into like the grass, you know, Fragrant Forest, ripping basic Pokemon out of your deck list, like that kind of theme for the grass archetype. This is also a deck that's playing Double Shuckle, so keep that in mind. We're not playing Pheromosa or whatnot. Lightning's less popular, right, in Oricorio in general right now, so I actually really do like Shuckle a bit more. Yeah, it's an interesting place for Vespiquen. I really like the Reckless Charge Combi because it's like Electrike and Manectric, and that 30 damage attack is really nice for baby Pokemon. But yeah, anyway, Vespiquen really, really strong. Here's the code, guys, if you wanted to play Vespiquen. Just a recent example of a deck that I think either won or did really well at an online tournament over the last few days. And I know a lot of people still feel quite strongly about Vespiquen. I don't know if people are that interested in it, though. I made a video highlighting Vespiquen in the first week of set release, and like not many people really watched the video. I don't think they really wanted to hear about Vespiquen, but it was in fact really, really strong for that first week. But the reason why we're going to move off Vespiquen and talk about something a little bit more specifically, and it's going to be Sceptile, okay? So I think Sceptile actually is probably the more well-positioned grass-type deck given the current state of the metagame, because Sceptile is a deck that does actually have a winning matchup into not only the dark-type decks like Hoopa EX, but also Mega Lucario, right? So that's the big difference here with Sceptile, is that it's a much less consistent deck list than Vespiquen. In fact, in general, I would say in most scenarios, Vespiquen is just the better deck list. But into the two most important matchups of the two most popular decks currently in the metagame, Sceptile is just, it's better. It's better into that particular, matchup spread of Lucario particularly. So being able to play a grass type deck that beats Lucario, like, is a big deal. The reason why Sceptile does well into Lucario mostly is because you have Greninja bench damage pressure, so you can kind of bring Lucario up before it's fully set up sometimes, but also Mega Sceptile has more HP, so theoretically speaking, it is able to live attacks for Mega Lucario a lot more consistently. So between Pheromosa, between Slicing Snipe, Grovyle, between Water Shuriken, Greninja, like, you can put a lot more bench pressure on with Cyrus, bring up, of course, your opponent's Lucario, and just kind of win the game that way, which is definitely a more interesting win condition. You don't even need to bring it up in the active. If you can deal enough bench damage to that Lucario, you can kind of shy them away from being able to bring it up, right? Which is a ton of pressure. And just being able to kind of whittle down their HP enough so that they know if they do bring it in, it'll get KO'd the turn after is a really, really big deal. Furfrou still an incredible card. Furfrou still one of the best Pokemon in the game. Probably should see more play, quite frankly. Even though it is weak to fighting, it just doesn't matter. Now, the Sock card that Lucario sometimes plays is really good into Furfrou, so you might see some more Sock if Furfrou Sceptile becomes a bit more popular. But yes, this is, to me, is like high roll grass, whereas Vespiquen is more tempo-based grass. And honestly, I do think Vespiquen is a better deck overall, but again, if you're going to be playing grass, you might as well just play the deck that's going to be able to beat Lucario a bit more consistently. And it does have like about a 10 to 12% higher win rate into Lucario, which is a really big deal. Again, if you're playing throughout this entire ranked season or this week and you're hitting a ton of Mega Lucario. I mean, I didn't even go the grass route. I've just been playing Chandelure, which again, I really do still recommend. But for those people that wanted to continue to play grass and have a strong fundamental matchup into those dark type decks, this is kind of the option for you. And I think Sceptile has won like 1 or 2 tournaments over the last couple of days as well. So this is definitely a deck that's rising back up. In fact, I would kind of suspect that because of Mega Lucario, Mega Sceptile will be kind of finding its way to the forefront of the metagame. In fact, this might have the highest average win rate over the last 3 days across all online tournament play, which is again like a bit like it's. There's you can disagree with me, and that's totally fine. I know sometimes I come on here and I just sort of like I just say things and maybe you guys can take them for granted because I don't, you know, I say them as facts. But even though I'm not necessarily showing the data, if you go and look it up, like Mega Sceptile has had a tremendous win rate. It's won tournaments, and it has a winning matchup into Lucario, right? So like, I'm not here to like, you know, change the meta. I'm not here to like manipulate the metagame in my favor at all. I'm just here to kind of give you guys what's happening, so that you can be prepared, right? And you can make educated decisions, right? That's all I'm doing, on this channel. That's all I ever do. And again, I just want to help you guys. So there you go. Mega Sceptile is back, and it's a really good deck. It's always been a good deck. It's quite strong. Yeah, I mean, play Mega Sceptile, guys. Just do it. I know it's tough. Like, I haven't really talked about Vespiquen much the last few days, and the reason for that is because, like, it just hasn't felt very well positioned into many things because Lucario has been so dominant. So it's like, I just don't really recommend it. At this point, I kind of recommend Mega Sceptile more. But let's talk about Hoopa. This is going to be S0's deck from Plasma Daily. I really think Mega Hoopa, or not, I always say Mega Hoopa. It's not a Mega Pokemon, it's just Hoopa EX. I've been saying it all season. I think Hoopa EX is absolutely insane. At face value, this might be the best deck in the entire game. Might be one of the best decks we've ever had. Hoopa EX is such a strong card. And I'm not gonna lie, like almost the entirety of this season's metagame is built around decks that can hold their own into Hoopa, because if you can't, you're just not going to beat Hoopa. Like, it's just got too much going for it. These dark type Pokemon are so strong, so much support for the dark type. The high HP pool on Hoopa means that starting planes and Lucky Ice Pop feel extraordinarily strong. And of course, Deceptive Needle is actually a broken card, a card that I actually sort of underrated a little bit. I did think that this would be good, but I wasn't sure if it would be better than Rocky Helmet. At this point, for dark type decks, I'm entirely positive that it is better. Purely just honestly, like based on the single fact that if you go first, you can attach Deceptive Needle and then pass and still deal damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Because how often do your opponents like lead a Pokemon and then just like retreat into something else that they want to be into? This, like, that 10 damage is enough to tag a Pokemon and then, you know, be like allow you to Cyrus it back up later in the game. Like, it's such a big deal. Deceptive Needle is so strong. It adds up. Again, like things like Lucky Ice Pop and Needle are so good with Hoopa because it's got 150 HP. It's so hard to get rid of this thing. And it's only worth 2 points, which is absolutely insane. I think Hoopa EX is phenomenally strong. And what's really cool, I guess, for Hoopa EX is that things like Darkrai and Mega Absol just fit extremely well with it because of its low energy attack cost to use Shadow Bullet. Those extra energies can be used to attach to more really useful Pokemon that you can set up on your bench, things like Darkrai, things like Mega Absol. I mean, this deck list is incredible. The only downside to this is that none of these Pokemon have a ton of HP, right? So playing things like Mega Lucario that can either one-hit KO them, or playing a Grass-type archetype like Vespiquen or Sceptile that can one-hit KO these Pokemon is literally the only opportunity, the only way you're going to be able to play this deck consistently and not just hard lose to it. It's kind of crazy how crazy this is. Anything with bench damage in the future is always going to be something that we have to look at as significantly or significant to the metagame. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, we have the bench damage, but we also have aggression, we have consistency, we have high HP pools. Just a ridiculous, just so crazy, man. So crazy. This might be the most meta warping deck, or Hoopa EX might be the most like meta, okay. Here's the thing, like, performances aside and tournament results aside, the decks that people are playing, especially in tournament play, are being played for a particular reason, right? Like, yes, like general strength is important, but it's about like matchups, right? And being good into the general scope of the metagame. I would say that Hoopa has had more impact on which decks are meta viable this season than any other deck. Things like Lucario, things like Vespiquen, things like Sceptile, things like anything else, I guess, that's meta relevant right now. It's kind of the reason why they're seeing play is because of Hoopa, right? So this to me is like the most significant meta driver this season. That might have not made any sense. I apologize, but there you go. It's Dark Hoopa. It's so good. You can play Sableye. So there was, I think, a deck that won a recent tournament playing Sableye. It has, if not a higher win rate, a very high win rate to this deck list. This is just the more popular version playing Absol over Sableye. They're both good. They're both strong. I would say 96% of the deck is the same in how it plays. If you're playing Sableye, Mega Sableye instead of Mega Absol, they're both good. I think Mega Absol's a bit better though in my estimation, just because like this is a deck that's a bit more front loaded. So like in the late game, like you don't really need the extra damage. What you do need is to get rid of your opponent's Cyrus and things like that, which is why Absol fits a bit better into this particular strategy. But yeah, I mean, Dark Hoopa is incredibly strong, so I had to mention it. Honestly. Now, next up is going to be Gouging Fire. This is a deck that's going to stick around this season. This is Esteban's 9-in-1 list. He did get first place at a recent online tournament. 1 Sada, 1 Small Balloon, 1 Ancient Booster, double Gouging Fire, double Dragonair, 1 Mega Rayquaza. We also have a PCL in here, double Rainbow Cave, 1 Cyrus. I really do like Gouging Fire and Rayquaza. What's interesting about this deck list is that it hasn't won nearly as many tournaments as some of the other decks, but its average win rate continues to be very solid. Basically more than anything else so far this season, to me, it really does feel like Mega Rayquaza is in Gouging Fire. This is a deck that doesn't necessarily care that much which decks are seeing play in the metagame. I would say that its win rates are less volatile than most other deck lists, meaning that they're mostly all pretty close to 50%. So this to me is going to be the deck that I would recommend for players that are both experienced at Pokemon Pocket, that can feel comfortable playing a deck like this without misplaying too often, which again isn't necessarily somebody like myself who misplays all the time, but there are some really high level players out there. This is a deck that will do quite well for those players. And what's really nice is that, again, if you do enjoy this deck, you could probably play this throughout this entire ranked season, do probably very, very well, and not really worry about what's going on in the active metagame. Like, you just always can win with this deck. It's kind of got a little bit of everything going for it. You got strong single prize Pokemon. Now, I will say that not playing a protected Poncho in here is a bit scary. Like, decks that can target your bench Dragonair certainly have like a pretty high upside in terms of like being able to beat Mega Rayquaza. So it does feel to me like protected Poncho is something we would like to fit into this deck list, but I don't really know how or where we could fit it. You could get rid of the Small Balloon, but then again, like if you lead Rayquaza, if you lead Dratini, like you need to be able to get out of it. An Ancient Booster Capsule is just so strong when attached to Gouging Fire. Sada is really needed. I think Cyrus and PCL are also kind of needed. So it's a tough deck to kind of slot in a Protected Poncho. But keep in mind, when I play Mega Rayquaza and when I watch people playing Mega Rayquaza, most of the time I feel like they lose because of those bench damage decks and their Dragonairs get targeted. You know, all it takes is for like one Dragonair to go down and all of a sudden you just can't hit. You're not able to hit particular damage thresholds. It's interesting because I do think that if you were to play things like Drampa instead of Gouging Fire, you could kind of get around a lot of that trouble, but then you would lose to Gouging Fire. And that's what's really interesting about Mega Rayquaza and these Dragonair Dragon-type decks this season, is that there are other options that might be better in certain ways than Gouging Fire, but in the head-to-head matchup, they're going to lose to Gouging Fire because it does 100 damage. So Dragon Arcana, Drampa, it'll just lose to end up losing to Gouging Fire, even though they might be better into other decks. So it's a weird place to be for Mega Rayquaza, but still a deck I would definitely recommend. It's my second to last deck that I'm featuring right now in this video, just because I don't really think it cares much about the metagame and what's really going on. And I think that's actually a pretty valuable thing, right? I think there's two ways to play ranked. There's two ways to play Pokemon Pocket. You can kind of come in and try to counter the metagame, or you can just play a deck that you think, is always has the opportunity to win. And that's what we're seeing with Gouging Fire Rayquaza. It's winning a couple of tournaments, but it's really always in the top 8, top 4 placements of all of these tournaments. So, it's really good. And I think a deck that honestly is a really good pick for ranked, which is why I guess I'm including it in today's video. However, we're going to wrap this up by talking about the weekly wild card. Now, like I said, Chandelure was the deck I was going to include for the weekly wild card spot. I'm talking like yesterday, but a lot changed in the last day or two. There was one deck that did end up winning a recent online tournament, and I thought was sort of perfect for the weekly wild card because we've yet to talk about a deck list of its type, energy type, in today's video. So the weekly wild card for today is actually going to be Mega Blaziken and Skeledurs. This is Harian. He went 9-1-2. I believe this was a first place finish at the Only Fraps pop-up tournament. A really, really fun deck list. Skeledurs was a Pokemon that I personally felt extremely strong about when it came out. I was like, this card has the potential to be broken. And basically, if you don't know what Skeledurs does, is it has the ability Passionate Voice. So you can discard one energy from this Pokemon, and you can do that while it's on the bench, and attacks used by your fire Pokemon do 50 more damage. That's plus 50 damage, which is a ton of damage on this thing. And technically speaking, you can attack and boost Skeletor's itself as an attacking option. For 2 energy, you can KO an Oricorio, which is always really nice. But yeah, Skeletor's Passionate Voice plus Blaziken is going to allow you to hit for 170 plus burn, brings you up to 190. And as you guys know, 190 is a very valuable number. This is effectively the only way to kind of play Mega Blaziken as like a true like heavy hitter deck, which again, just like we talked about, right, with Mega Lucario was a really big deal. And if you include a weakness towards grass type Pokemon, that 190 turns into 210, which is going to KO Mega Sableye. So this is a really, really smart deck, but one that I think is definitely leading into, you know, kind of the high roll potential. At the end of the day, you are just playing Mega Blaziken, right? We have a Heatmor in here. We have Mime Jr., which is actually a really nice consistency card with Mimey Shuffle. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. So it's like a copycat as a baby Pokemon attack. And for decks like this, for more high roll strategies, I actually really do like Mime Jr. because this is a deck that really just requires that you get all of your kind of stage 2 Pokemon up and running. This deck might not be consistent for you guys, okay? This is not the most consistent deck in the world, but it did win a tournament, so it does have pure high roll potential. And again, that's why it's the weekly wild card, right? This is a wild card deck if I've ever seen it. Could easily be a flash in the pan. As we know, Harian is one of the better players in the game. I don't think I've been even showing the codes, by the way. I need to go back because I definitely feel like I've been forgetting to show the codes. Here's the Mega Sceptile code, okay? And this is not going to work for the timestamp, so I apologize. Here's the Mega Sceptile code. Here's the the Hoopa EX code, okay? I'm so sorry for the people that are using the timestamps and I didn't get the codes. They're going to comment down below and yell at me. Here's the Gouging Fire Rayquaza code. I definitely forgot to show the codes for these. Maybe I didn't, I don't know. And then here, of course, we're back to Blaziken. So again, guys, high roll fire, 1-hit KO potential, kind of plays like Mega Blaziken, maybe with a bit more steps, but you do have more HP, and you're not weak to Psychic, right? There's not that much water in the metagame right now. For the kind of the first time in a while, it's quite odd. Less and less water. I don't even know if there's like really any water you're going to see on the ranked ladder, which is kind of crazy when you consider that with not a lot of water seeing play, you would suspect fire to be at the forefront of the metagame because there is a lot of grass that's seeing play. So why not? Why not just play Mega Blaziken? Again, a really, really fun deck list. Might be a flash in the pan. Again, Harian, one of the better decks, better players in the game, so this could definitely be like an outlier example of a really great player just kind of winning a tournament with a deck that maybe most people wouldn't do well with, but that's, again, why we include this as the weekly wild card. So comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Skeletor's is super spicy. Super, super spicy. I love this. Passionate Voice Skeletor is a really, really cool card, and it does synergize pretty well with Flame Patch, even though we're only playing one Flame Patch, but we are playing one Cyrus, one Hiking Trail. Not a lot of space in the deck. One Foyt Coco, one Skeletor's, no middle evolution, double rare candy, but we are playing a 2-1-2 Mega Blaziken line with one Heatmor and one Mime Jr. Double Copycat, double Research, double Pokeball. Again, try it out for yourself. High roll, big hitter, Blaziken. Super, super fun. One of the cooler decks ever. And again, it did get first place, so that's why it's my weekly wild card. And not Chandelure, which again, right now, I'm actually considering to be a pretty significant deck in the current state of the metagame, and one that I'm in fact just playing for ranked battles because I think it's just that good. I think it's just a really strong deck, and one that I think deserves to see way more play. So there you go. Here's the code for Mega Blaziken. I apologize if I didn't bring the codes up when I was talking about the deck specifically. At some point in today's video, I've brought up the code for all of the decks, okay? So you're going to have to just go through it and find them, okay? I do apologize. It's not something I'm necessarily super used to yet. However, you guys can also just go to pocketmads.com if you want to take a look at all of the different decks, all of the different tournament results, the community posted feed decks. Check them all out. Link down in the description below. And of course, pocketmads.com. Potentially the only deck list, Pokemon Pocket deck list sharing website to have QR codes. Is that correct? I don't know if any other sites are doing this yet, but we're doing it, and that's because we love you guys, and we're the best. I'm just kidding. D Shook is the best. Our website developer is legitimately the man, who's, of course, made this all happen. So big thanks to him. Go check out pocketmads.com. We also have some community articles that we're posting by various members of the community. A couple articles out there already. One about Hoopa EX deck lists, which version you should be playing, and also Mega Lucario. So if you're interested in like Pokemon Pocket deck articles, go check out pocketmats.com as well. All right, guys, let's get out of here. Don't forget to register. PMPT number 42. So many things to talk about. I'm just plugging everything. I plug all my stuff. Like and subscribe. There you go, guys. Maybe we'll do a ranked live stream soon. It would be fun to play some Chandelure on the ranked ladder. We'll see. We'll see if we can get live here soon. It's a busy time for me, of course. I'm always busy. But there you go, guys. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let's get out of here. Peace out. Have a good one. We'll see you guys next time. And yeah. Bye.